Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with the patch 5.0 breakdown, and number one, of course, we're back in the country, back from Korea, so of course we're gonna have the better quality audio now, and of course we're also gonna have the patch 5.0 videos. And now I know this video is like kind of one full day late from when the patch release, pretty much because well, basically yesterday I was out the entire day. I left the house at 6 a.m. and came back at like 11 p.m. So didn't really have any kind of time in the entire day to record this video. So I'm gonna have to do it today instead. But hopefully it's still gonna be useful for you guys. So let's jump straight into it without further ado. We of course have Syndra. A new mage champion is already out, is already released. Haven't played at all since yesterday. As I said, I was out the entire day, so I don't know how good she is, but judging by how all release champions are, probably going to be pretty strong. And it's a very popular mage on the PC, very meta in high elo as well, so probably is going to do very well on the Rift. So we have this new companion system, where it's not really new. It's sort of the same as the chonk thing, I believe. Basically, you have a lot more options now, and I believe they can be permanent, something like that. But this kind of thing never really bothered me. The rank season is going to start really soon. As of the recording of this video, it's gonna be in a couple of hours time. By the time the video releases, probably it's either already going to be live, the new season, or just about to be live. So we have a new WoW pass, which is going to be Food Spirits Vagar. We have an event that's live now, which is the WoW puzzle. Of course, one of the favorites of the lead Wild Rift devs. Of course, we had it for Zyra recently, Swain as well, and of course they love having these kind of puzzle events. So now we're going to jump into champion changes. So first up, we have the Aurelian Soul rework. Now, I can't really comment too much on this, but basically it's literally like a new champion. So it's really, I'm not really going to talk too much about the changes, because in reality this is like literally a new champion. It's just like Syndra, it's just a new champion. It's not really a change in my opinion. It's the same name, but it's like a completely different champion essentially. So he's of course getting this fire breathing ability on his Q. He is of course getting no longer having those orbs. Instead, he's gonna now be able to fly past terrain, which used to be his E, but it's now his W. And his E is basically now like a black hole that sucks people in and executes them. And his ulti is now just like an AoE, AoE damaging / CC ability. So completely new champion. I believe this does make him not only a lot stronger, but also a lot easier to play. Of course, the previous Aurelian Soul had a very, very unique playstyle, but also because of that, Aurelian Soul like one tricks or mains probably going to be pretty upset with this, but it's going to benefit the general player base. So other champion changes: Gragas body slam. He can during his body slam animation, he can now use his barrel roll, which is Q. Of course, the body slam locked you out of casting other abilities when you're in it. So this, I guess, just makes Gragas combos easier, because now when you are Eing towards an enemy, you can instantly Q while you're in your E, which does make your combo a lot more quick and a lot more smooth, a lot harder to react to. So overall, this is a pretty good change, pretty big buff for Gragas. Now Lee Sin, I do realize they do a lot of this removed and new, but in reality it's actually the exact same ability description. The only difference is the numbers. So first up, the initial target, the damage is going from like this amount to like this amount. Essentially, it's kind of like a nerf to the pure damage number. So it's 100, 300, 500 now, whereas it used to be 200, 425, and 650. The bonus AD is still the same, but of course now it accounts for your target's maximum health, which it did not previously. It only accounted for it here. And now, of course, on the other people who get hit by your initial target, it used to be this, and it is now this, pretty much getting the same treatment. Yeah, essentially they just transferred this part into the two other parts. I'm not quite sure why, but of course these numbers did of course change a little bit as well. Got a little bit nerfed, I believe. Yeah, a little bit nerfed in that sense. But yeah, they kind of just changed the phrasing of it. I assume the main reason they're doing this is because in future, when they want to balance, they can adjust these numbers individually, and they don't actually have to be identical, although they are identical now. So for example, they could reduce the initial target's max health damage, whereas they could increase the secondary target's max health damage instead as well. So it's a little bit easier for future balancing purposes, I presume. So of course Zyra is kind of still pick banned, so she's getting some pretty massive nerfs. First up, her passive, the plants, is going to last 2 seconds less from 8 to 6. This is probably one of the most massive nerfs in all of these. Actually, this is a really massive nerf as well, because this one, of course, her plants are a lot of her damage, a lot of utility as well. So this is going to cause you to basically have it up for less, and the health is also getting a huge decrease. It used to be 40 to 600 plus, plus ability power, whereas now it's 20 to 60, but it's now 35% AP. So this basically means that in the early game, her plants are going to be a lot weaker, whereas in the late game, I'm not sure if it goes up to about the same amount, but I'm going to assume it goes to roughly the same amount. So in late game, probably it's going to be either about the same or, slightly stronger / weaker, but essentially this makes the plants a lot weaker in the early game. Should be able to just one-shot the plants with like one auto attack in the early game. The root duration on her E is getting nerfed by 0.25 seconds at all ranks, which is actually pretty huge, because any change to CC duration is always going to be a very huge change, even if it seems like it's nothing. Like 0.25, 0.5 seems like nothing, but it actually makes a huge difference. And the ulti area of effect is getting reduced, basically like the Zeri treatment for the ulti. Of course, it's going to make it a lot harder to hit your ulti, although 70 nerf from 500, it doesn't seem too bad, but still getting your AoE reduced is always going to be a bad thing. So next up, we got a couple interesting stuff. So we have increased attack range for a lot of empowering abilities. What I mean by empowering abilities is the kind that enhances your basic attack. So of course, this Blitzcrank E, Camille Q, Jax Q are all the kind that you enhance your next auto attack to attack. So basically, whenever you pop any of these abilities, you're gonna get a bonus 25 range. So yeah, of course these does help mainly Baron laners. And then we have Ultimate Spellbook, where you can now use Power Energy for rerolls. Then we're having a lot of arena changes. Now I'm not really going to cover arena changes because this is going to take a really long time, but essentially I'm going to sum it up, where basically your champion cameos, which of course used to be Soul Fighter, and then of course they changed it after that, and now they're changing it again. Of course this kind of matches the theme and matches the event. Now we're having the Lunar New Year champions over here, those that are getting the Lunar New Year skins. And we have a lot of new augments, seems pretty interesting. And we also, of course, you guys can take a look at the patch notes if you want to take a look at all the new augments. And of course, we have augment changes as well to the previous augments over here. And you can now surrender if your teammate goes AFK, which is of course really useful. And we also, I don't know why these are under augment changes. I don't know why surrendering is under augment changes, but yeah. And also you have a new camera view, and yeah. So now we are taking a look at this system features, and this is still under arena, by the way. So they're doing balance adjustments to a lot of champions, essentially. So like melee champions will have bonus stats, and ranged champions as well. And there's a critical strike difference. The critical strike damage is increased to 190, so I guess it's useful for ADCs. And fully upgraded items now cost 3k gold each, so apparently they're standardizing the cost, and stats have been rebalanced, and they're giving magic pen and crit rate to ability power items. Don't know why ability power items are getting crit rate, but that's pretty interesting. And there's a new team fight round where it's basically a free-for-all with all teams involved, and you can get bonus rewards. So this is all, a lot of just arena changes if you guys are interested in that. Personally, I only play ranked. I don't really play arena or any of the other limited time modes, so it doesn't really interest me too much. But of course, I know arena in particular is a very popular mode which some people love. Also, again, more arena stuff. So you have stacking hats now, and lunar dumplings, which give you movement speed when you kill a minion or monster, things like that. So now we're gonna get back into the quote-unquote normal game, where there are gonna be a couple of new items. Now this is a Baron lane fighter kind of focused patch, or not even fighter because there's Heartsteel, so tanks are getting some love as well. But it's a very Baron lane focused patch, and you'll see why in a bit. So first up, we have Spear of Shojin. It's basically a decently priced item. It gives you 300 max health, 45 AD, 20 ability haste, pretty standard stats for a fighter item. And it's going to give you ability increases your ability haste of your basic abilities by 25% for 6 seconds when you cast your ulti, and gives you 30% movement speed that decays over 3 seconds. When you get a takedown within 6 seconds, this is going to refresh with a 20-second cooldown. Now, 20-second cooldown is not going to be too important because majority of champions ultis are longer than 20-second cooldown anyway. Like unless you're like a Teemo or a Corki, you're not your ulti is generally going to be more than 20 seconds, so the cooldown is kind of irrelevant. Basically, whenever you pop your ult, you're going to get movement speed and ability haste on your basic abilities. So this is of course really useful for mainly Baron laners. Like maybe think of champions like Jax. Like Jax pops his ulti, gets lower cooldowns on his jump, on his empowered attack, and his his counter strike, things like that. Like it's basically just gonna be useful like a set. He goes in with the ulti and he can more ability haste from all of his basic abilities, things like that. Titanic Hydra also is mainly a Baron lane kind of item. Gives you it costs 3k, gives you only 550 max health. I say only, this is a lot of max health, but I'm saying it doesn't give you any other stats. But it does give you a D equal to 5 plus 2.5% bonus health. So again, this is a Baron lane item because you generally want to build this on fighters that you're building health on. Again, like the Jaxes, the Sets, and etc. of the world. It has another passive which gives you an AoE attack. So every 2.5 seconds, your next attack deals bonus physical damage, scaling with your health, creating a shockwave. So this is the AoE part, creating a shockwave that deals damage equal to 80 plus 10% bonus health to enemies behind the target. I don't know if it's behind, but normally it's like a circle when in League of Legends, and ranged champions deal 75% of the damage. So now there's a few things to take note here. First up, it's every 2.5 seconds. Now in League PC, this actually has no cooldown, so this works on every auto attack. Now, of course, in Wild Rift, not in Wild Rift, but for Baron laners, you don't really attack that fast. So I guess this is every other auto attack. So for example, if you're a Set, for example, you auto attack once to proc cleave, you auto attack the second time, it's probably not gonna proc cleave. You auto attack the third time, probably it may or may not. So every couple of attacks you're gonna proc cleave one time. Now, I think this makes the item a lot weaker, and of course it's meant to really be built by Baron laners because no one else really builds bonus health, so it's not really worth it to build on other champions. Now in PC, people do build this on ADCs for a couple of reasons. Firstly, of course, you're already getting max health from here, so this you're gonna get the 2.5 bonus health of this 500 plus max health, which is gonna be like maybe 12.5 or so. Yeah, about 12.5. Not, it's a little bit more than that. Maybe around 13 point something. 5 plus 13 point something. So it's gonna deal 20 extra, give you 20 extra AD, which is really not that much. And of course, it also the damage here scales with your bonus health. So people do build it on ADCs as a Runan's replacement if you want to be tankier, but the issue is that you don't really build a lot of max health on ADCs, so because of that it's kind of not really that good, but it might be part of some ADCs build. Of course, we'll have to take a look at that, if it is viable, if it is possible, and if it is, of course you can expect some videos on Titanic Hydra and ADCs, although I think it's pretty unlikely. So now, in my opinion, the most game-changing item out of these 3 new items is going to be Heartsteel. So Heartsteel costs 3k, gives you 700 health, 150 base health regeneration, 20 ability haste, but when you're within 700 units of an enemy champion, you charge up for 3 seconds, and then you basically do it's sort of like grass, where you do a special attack on them, and this is going to deal bonus physical damage equal to 120 plus 5% of your max health, and it grants you max health equal to 12% of the damage dealt. So basically, this is going to be a cycle where initially you're going to deal very little damage because it's only 5% of your maximum health, but it's going to give you maximum health equal to 12% of the damage you did. So the more times you proc this, the more maximum health you're going to get. The more maximum health you're going to get, the more damage you're going to do, and the more damage you're going to do, the more max health you're going to get. So essentially, at the beginning of the game, which is, you should always build this first item because you want to stack this up as quickly as possible, but at the start it's going to deal very little damage and give you very little max health. But the more and more you proc it, the more damage it's going to do and the more max health it's going to give you, so it becomes a very, very strong item in the late game. Of course, it's infinitely stacking as well, so it's a really, really strong Baron lane item for anyone who wants to be tanky. And next up, we're getting some reworks. Basically, first up, we're getting Mantle of the 12th Hour rework. Essentially, the main difference is that Last time it used to give you a heal. Now it actually gives you bonus maximum health. So this is going to be permanent. So whenever mental procs, it's going to give you bonus max health. So this makes the item a lot stronger for sure. This is one of the most useless tank items previously. Even after they buffed it and gave it more stats and stuff, no one was building it pretty much. So this change is actually pretty huge. So this could make the item actually pretty good. Next up, Randuin's. The main change that it's going to give you is when it reaches 500, or not really when it reaches. So basically, when your stacks charge up, when you attack a champion, you will consume all the determination stacks. But this is the new part. If you still have unconsumed determination stacks for 5 seconds, you will automatically consume all of it to heal yourself for half the amount. So for example, if for some reason you're getting let's say you're a Mundo, you're getting kited out by a Vayne, for example. She's tumbling away, and your determination stacks all the way up to 500, but you can't reach her because you miss your cleaver, you can't catch up, and she's just shredding you basically, and your determination stacks are just going all the way up. So basically, if it reaches 500 and you wait for like 5 seconds, it's gonna automatically heal you for half of the amount. Now, of course, the trade-off for not proccing it on your attack is that it's only gonna give you half the heal. But of course, half the heal is better than no heal when you really can't reach the guy. So this is overall a buff for Randuin's. So Zeke's is getting a pretty interesting change. It's removing the magic resist but giving you max health instead. Now this is a pretty big change because Zeke's is basically a support item. It's meant to be built first, but the issue is it gives you 40 armor, 40 magic resist, but no health. So health is actually normally the most important stat in the early game because you want to... health is effective against both magic resist and armor. So you normally want to build health first as your first and or second item. Then you want to go into more magic resist or more armor. So Zeke's supposed to be your first item, but it's a pretty trash first item. So now with max health, this is actually going to make it a lot more viable as a first item. Now it's an armor item that gives you max health, so you can see a lot of like tanks building this, like Leona or Nautilus, for example. And next up we have Runan's. Runan's cost is going up by 100, attack speed is going down by 10%, but now the attack damage and ability power you're getting is increased very slightly. Now I think overall this is a nerf because although you're getting slightly more AD and AP, getting a nerf of 10% attack speed is pretty pretty bad, I guess you could say, because Runan's is really just an attack speed item now, which you want to build on, like, champions that you are playing on hit builds with, things like that. So having less attack speed is not that great, so it's a nerf overall. The 3 support items basically now need to charge up to 750 gold instead of 500, so it makes it harder to charge the support item. I kind of agree with this because I felt that the support item was charging a little bit too quickly. Of course, this is kind of the middle ground. So it used to be you need to charge 500 to evolve it once, then another 500 to evolve it twice, so that was taking too long. Then they changed it to only needing 500 to fully evolve it once, which was too fast. So this is now the middle ground where you need 750 instead of a total of 1000/500 to, of course, reach the full amount. I think this is probably going to be a good change. We'll have to see. So Baron lane is now getting an alcove for a little bit more like outplay potential. I don't know why they're not giving it to bot lane, but apparently it's a Baron lane patch, so they're only giving it to Baron lane, which is pretty strange. And the honey fruit is now getting moved further back to prevent any ranged champions in the Baron lane from proccing your honey fruit and basically wasting it. So basically it makes it harder for your enemies to pop the honey fruit, because if they want to do that, they have to walk really deep into your tower if they're melee, and even if they're ranged, they still need to walk pretty deep into your tower. So there's that. So now, as we said, a lot of interesting changes. So now there's a new cannon minion. Now this cannon minion is not the cannon minion we're used to. So that cannon minion that we always see, the official name for that is actually siege minion. So basically, you can see that there's a discrepancy in strength between siege minions and other minions. Of course, the siege minion, I'm just gonna refer to the current cannon minion as a siege minion. The siege minion wave is gonna be a lot stronger because of the siege minion, and yeah, so this basically presents a lot of challenges. You could say challenges, but you could also say it's a game mechanic of having every third wave being a siege minion, which it really is. So they're replacing them with cannon minions. And basically, this allows you to concentrate more on laning, because it matters a lot less when you recall and when you roam, because you don't have cannon waves to like destroy your tower, or cannon waves, basically the cannon minion does a lot of damage and is really tanky as well, so you have to kind of play around the cannon minion waves, especially in higher elo. So basically, This change is going to make it such that the cannon minion is going to be a replacement for the siege minion for the first like 12 minutes of the game, where you basically have to care a lot less about waves before 12 minutes. So yeah, so it has a ranged attack and is weaker than the siege minion but stronger than the melee minion. Yeah, so yeah, the average strength of minion waves are pretty consistent. So just some wave changes, and I really don't know what this is about. So basically, for 7 minutes, shadow experience are reduced when soul laners gain higher experience points in the top and mid lanes. Um, I mean, bot lane was already sharing experience, so unless they're saying that bot lane is gonna get less XP and top and mid are gonna get more XP, which is gonna create a bigger difference. Maybe that's what this is about, but that's gonna be pretty bad for bot lane. So catch up mechanic is now a little bit harder to trigger, because previously when you're down by 0.75 levels, it's gonna trigger catch up XP, whereas now it has to be one full level over the average level, so a little bit harder to catch up. Also, now past level 9, you're going to need a lot more experience points to level up past level 10, 11, 12, 13, and so on. Basically, it's going to be harder to level up on the past few levels. Now, my first thought is this is going to affect death cap, because if you guys recall, death cap after the rework is now tied to your level, and a lot of other items like armor penetration items also tied to your level, so it could mean that you can only build death cap and armor penetration items later on in the game. You can't build it earlier, so that does affect that. And now, when there's only one champion assisting, you will only get 35% of the bounty instead of 50% of the bounty. So I don't know why, for some reason, when you have only one assister, the assister gets less. Now this feels like it's targeted to the bot lane mainly, or maybe even the jungle, because junglers will gank, and if they don't gank bot lane, like they gank mid or top, it's two people, and in bot lane of course it's two people as well. So you're gonna get less for the assisting champion, which is kind of bad, kind of sucks, but it's fair across the board, of course. And new rune stat optimizations. You can get more info from the rune page, and strategic objectives, which is the bounties, can now be triggered earlier, and it doesn't take into account the passives that gives you extra gold as well as the runes that give you extra gold, which does of course make sense, because yeah, I don't think they should be counted in anyways. So now we have basically a buff to all Dragon Souls. Now Dragon Souls are really weak win condition, and even when you get Dragon Soul, it really doesn't really even like guarantee you a win, or doesn't really push you that much further towards winning. So you're pretty much giving all Dragon Souls a buff. So Infernal Soul is getting a base buff from 110 to 135, and a little bit more bonus AD and AP ratios. Dragon Soul's shield is getting buffed by 50. Now Dragon Soul, Mountain Soul is kind of the most useless one. It does pretty much nothing. So just a bit of a bigger shield. Now Ocean Soul, the health recovery is going up by a little bit as well in terms of ratios as well as base amount. Ice Dragon, again, the percentage is going up by 3%, and the cooldown's dropping by 3 seconds. So just small buffs to all the Dragon Souls across the board. Nothing too game changing. I don't think this changes too much. I don't think it's going to make any of the souls really, really good, but it's just alright. So now, basically when you stack damage with, stack items with damage reduction, it's gonna be a little bit less effective because of the new calculations, and they didn't say anything specific, but basically it's a slight nerf to tanks, I guess, because you got a lot of new tank items and stuff. Ghost Power is now the Jungle Spirit, where it will move in front of enemies it detects and fear them before it returns to its normal patrol, and when you kill it, it's gonna respawn at a new jungle camp. So the fear part is pretty interesting. Like this could be a change, like if for example you camp in one of the bush near your ferry, and if an enemy walks near, the ferry actually CCs the enemy for you, and you can actually get some free damage or even chain CC with the Jungle Spirit, which looks like a fairy to me. So this is a pretty interesting change. I don't think a lot of people are gonna like it. I didn't really like it personally. I think you can just ward your jungle. You don't really need this Ghost Power / Jungle Spirit thingy there. Rift Herald is now only going to focus on aggroing turrets instead of minions, so it's basically gonna ignore minions and champions. It's just gonna charge at the turret, which basically makes Rift Herald a lot more easier to use. And Rune Stack, so basically Conqueror and Kraken Slayer is now gonna fall off at 1 stack per half second like Lethal Tempo, instead of just falling all of the stacks just falling off instantly, which of course is a buff to Conk and Kraken. It's going to make them quite a bit better, because you can try to maintain your stacks when you start dropping them off. So this is a pretty interesting change. In the first 30 seconds of the game, you can sell your items at original price in case you bought the wrong item. Like you're a support, you didn't buy a support item, or you're not a support, you bought a support item, or I don't know, you're a mage and you bought a longsword as your first item, things like that. So, so yeah. And also the next purchasable fully upgraded item is going to be shown in advance at the left hand corner of your screen, as well as how much gold you need. So it's a lot easier to know when you need to bag or like how much gold you need before you can bag for an item, things like that. Small quality of life. You can get boot enchantments in practice mode at the start of the game, which is really irritating in the practice mode where you need to wait for like 6 minutes to like get that. And for lifeline abilities, if the damage breaks the shield instantly, you can actually now see a VFX, like on Seraphs, Sterex, and Shield Bow. Bearer gets the same treatment. And now when you have Hex Flash, it's going to show you the remaining cooldown of your flash, because you couldn't see it previously when you had Hex Flash, which was actually a pretty big problem, to be honest. So yeah. So there's some optimization to the in-game announcer. There's also a buff to the HUD, I guess you could say. So previously on things like First Strike, for example, it's gonna display 999 plus if it's like over 1,000, but now it's gonna show like, for example, 32.1k or like 1.2k, so you can actually see the exact amount you get from your First Strike and other like infinitely stacking runes like that, or like Scion passive, for example, things like that. So yeah, so now on the post-game screen, you can actually see how much stacks each item has. A lot of these small kind of UI optimizations. And now when you get Baron or Elder, you can actually see the exact amount of time that the buff has left instead of just seeing a rough one from the HUD below. And another thing, this is what I find to be one of the most useful. When there's less than 10 seconds of cooldown remaining for your teammates' ultimates or your spells, you can actually see the exact number on the scoreboard or on the minimap. So on the minimap, you can of course see the ultimates, and on the scoreboard you can see the spells like flash and things like that, because this really matters. Like for example, if you're going to like a team fight and you need to stall for like 10 seconds or like 5 seconds for like your Malphite to get his ulti, something like that, and you don't actually know how long more your teammate's ulti is unless you ping the ulti, which of course could send the wrong signal to your teammates. So of course this is really useful, just like for in-game purposes. And now this, like for flash combos, like these flash combos, like if you flash during this combo, it's going to like auto target it a little bit better. I wouldn't auto target anything if I'm doing a flash combo anyway, but for people who do, I guess it's going to be a good change for them. Then they added some like thing where you can interact with your teammates in the lobby or your opponents in the lobby, and also like in the game itself. Yeah, things like that. A lot of other like kind of like small things that don't really matter, like things like new guild profiles, new wall of fame in the guild, and a lot of other like nonsense. So these all aren't really very important, so I'm not going to really talk about them too much. The video is getting pretty long as well. So here we of course have new skins. Spirit Blossom Syndra and Food Spirits Vega already out. Glorious Crown Zinjao, by the time this video is up, probably is going to be out as well. And of course tomorrow we are going to have the Lunar New Year skins. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Small bug fixes here, you guys can read them for yourselves. And that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and goodbye.